enough to invest? That is still the question. Together with Sean Saunders, CEO of Revix, let's dive into the topic of investing in crypto as an asset class.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. So before I begin, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sean Sanders, and I'm the founder and CEO of Revix. And I'm going to be speaking to you today for a short period of time, and then I'll be joined by Tiaan Wolmarans, who is our head of product development at Revix. Now, Tiaan has a deep understanding of the crypto market's evolution over the last several years, and he has some interesting insights on what needs to be done to simplify this rather complicated space. So let's get started with a short trip down memory lane. So let's go back to 1994, when the internet was becoming mainstream.
Back now at 56 past, I wasn't prepared to translate that as I was doing that little tease.
Oh, that's
that little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At?
See, that's what I said. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'd never heard
Or
it.
around
I'd never
or
heard it
about.
said. I'd always
That's
seen
right.
the mark, but never heard it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard
be around
big
or
fight
about.
up in the lunchroom the other
See,
week.
there it is. Violence at NBC. GE.com. I mean,
Well, Allison should know.
what
do you
is
say to that,
internet
Allison?
anyway?
Internet is that
Massive computer
right,
network.
the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
No, she can't say anything in 10 seconds or less.
Oh, Allison will be in the studio shortly.
What is
What
it?
does it mean?
It's a giant computer network made up of started from.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us what this was.
It's like
You've been
a
looking in the
computer
dictionary.
billboard.
It's not in it. It's a computer billboard, but it's
Right.
nationwide, and it's several universities and everything all joined together. And
Right.
And others can access it.
Right.
And it's getting bigger and bigger all the time.
It
Just
came
great.
in really handy during the quake. A lot of people, that's how they were communicating out to tell family and loved ones they were okay because all the phone lines were down.
I was telling Katie, and I've
But
been
you
talking.
don't need that. You don't need a phone line to operate internet.
No.
Now, what does this remind you of? Yeah, I suppose since we had a blockchain conference, there's no hiding the fact that, yes, the world of crypto and blockchain today is remarkably similar to that of the 1993 period, where everything is new and the way the technology works feels rather clunky and weird. And I mean, as the TV show hosts pointed out, there was a time, and this wasn't that long ago, when the @ sign was new and the idea of the internet was something completely foreign. And today we take that all for granted. Now, I suspect, and I suppose a lot of you out there as well suspect, that crypto will evolve in much the same way, where in 5 or 7 years' time, a lot of the crazy jargon and new terms that we have today, like public keys, cold storage, and decentralization, will become a lot more mainstream, and people will become more comfortable using them as they interact with these technologies over time. Now, I want to introduce you to Revix before I hand over to Tiaan, which is a secure, modern, easy-to-use platform that is built for both newcomers and professionals alike. We offer Bitcoin, a regulated gold tokenized commodity called Paxos Gold, which is backed 1-for-1 by physical gold held in London Brinks vaults, and 3 ready-made crypto bundles. And these are our own products that are sort of like the S&P 500 for crypto, that offer passive, diversified exposure to this novel asset class. Now, the 3 bundles we have a top 10 bundle, which provides exposure to, as the name implies, the top 10 cryptocurrencies. They're all equally weighted, and the bundle is rebalanced on a monthly basis. And what this means is that you get broad exposure to the cryptocurrency asset class without having to worry about having to rebalance the portfolio yourself on a monthly basis. Then we have 2 themed-based bundles within the crypto space. So we provide exposure to the payment-focused cryptocurrencies. So these are the likes of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, XRP, etc., that are looking to sort of vie for the position of digital cash. Now, our payment bundle owns the top 5 payment-focused cryptocurrencies, and their 2 are equally weighted. Our final bundle is our smart contract bundle, and this provides exposure to, as the name implies, smart contract-oriented cryptocurrencies. So these are the cryptocurrencies that are similar to the likes of Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, Neo, EOS, Cardano, Tron, etc., etc. And this is a bundle that's also rebalanced on a monthly basis and provides broad exposure to this theme within the crypto space. So if you want to learn more about what we do, please head over to www.revix.com. And without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Tiaan.
Thanks, Sean. So I'm Tiaan and I work on product at Revix, and while my talk today is going to be focused mostly on financial products and services, I think that the general principles around this talk can be applied to most blockchain products and services. So let's get into this a little bit. This talk's entitled Building Better Blockchain Products, but actually it's a case for how to make your products a little better for mass consumption. This is something that I think is really important to talk about, because while I think that Bitcoin is here to stay as a store of value and maybe one day as money, there are tons of other retail-focused blockchain products, services, and blockchains themselves that are in danger of a slow slide into being irrelevant. So I love asking questions, and my favorite question to ask any blockchain founder is what concerns you most about your business? What are you worried about that might affect the future of your business? And the first response usually is regulation. And then after that, they go, well, I'm worried about getting people to use my product. And the third thing people say is that I'm struggling to find really good talent. So I don't know a lot about regulation nor recruitment. So we're going to stick with adoption on this one. So let's talk about some ways that we currently measure adoption. So many crypto-focused publications use this and the next metric as a measure of adoption. So this is a chart showing daily active Ethereum addresses. So that means if an address moves some funds on the Ethereum network, we're logging this as an active address. This next slide shows the dollar value of transactions on the Bitcoin network each day. Now, none of these are definitive measures of adoption as much as they are outcomes of a move towards adoption. While lots of addresses making a transaction on any given blockchain might be a good indication of use of the blockchain, it's not a true reflection of the number of people that are actually using it. Measuring the total number of transactions also has its benefits, but it also has its flaws, like it could be skewed by a whale or a business that's transferring funds from one wallet to another one. And finally, the least objective one of all of them, but a very common, is the classic, well, my grand's heard of Bitcoin, so adoption must be coming. In this case, we're confusing mass awareness with mass adoption. Awareness is like going to Starbucks and knowing that there's a program to get free coffee. Adoption is going to Starbucks, earning the points that you need, and then claiming the free coffee. And this is where the real challenge for Starbucks and blockchain lies. Because even though I can take advantage of this promotion, I often don't, because they've added extra steps. In crypto, we have a similar problem. We have to onboard users, and then we have to teach them about things like fees, gas, private keys, and mnemonic phrases. It's difficult. There's so many concepts and considerations to make with a simple crypto transaction, and it's bottlenecking the onboarding process for many prospective users. This makes the simple task, like buying the latest mutated digital cat, far more complicated than users are familiar with. And to be frank, we're asking for too much. Outside of just a handful of products, overcomplicated decision-making is passed on to the user instead of the business just handling this logic themselves. Instead, we pass products with complex UI that requires the user to have an in-depth understanding of the back end, essentially, of our products. And they don't need to. And then we frame this complexity as a feature, but it's really not. Adding complexity to new technology is going to doom your product from the start unless you're open to rapid iteration, and most times our budget doesn't allow that. So I want to talk about two schools of thought when it comes to developing products for blockchain. Now, neither is wrong, but one is very common and one is considerably less common. So let's talk about the first one, and this is a mouthful, so give me a second. The first one is waiting for mass adoption while solving technical problems that will positively impact the lives of users. So it's not a bad thing. We're building a product. We think this product is going to be useful and it's going to provide value. And one day when the world wakes up and loves crypto, this is going to be huge. So while this approach is well-intentioned, it's kind of like buying a house before you get to look inside of it for the first time. The second one, and this is an even bigger mouthful, achieving adoption by solving technical problems that will positively impact the lives of users without introducing complexity to the users. Now, there's only a subtle difference between these two schools of thought. The first one is we want to make something great for users and it's going to make a difference. The second one is we're going to make something for users It's going to make a difference in their lives, but we're going to make it really simple for them to understand. It seems so obvious, yet this space is kind of riddled with businesses and developers doing the exact opposite. If you want lots of people to use your product, you have to build it for lots of people. Now, I know some of you will argue that something like fees need to be in the hands of a customer, but maybe not in your blockchain game. Maybe that's an advanced feature toggle. Or maybe your fee could be displayed in a currency that your users understand. Or maybe if you really need your customer to input the fee that they're willing to pay, allow them to input the fee in a currency that they understand, not into a currency with 18 decimal places that doesn't really translate into their daily life. The mass adoption of a single product, a blockchain, or even cryptocurrencies as a whole isn't possible if we keep prioritizing and attempt to explain complicated features and concepts to users instead of just prioritizing their needs. Complexity is not a feature, and centralized experiences are really great. And why wouldn't they be? We've got 30 years of digital product history, hundreds of years of experience in building businesses and products and services. So let's take a look at how some centralized businesses do this and try and apply it to blockchain. Can you remember this iOS look? When Apple first introduced the iPhone, and for years after that, they had to slowly graduate their customers from telephone users to photographers to people who could automate their homes from their phones. This was a product design strategy called skeuomorphism, and it was hugely successful in onboarding millions of customers and bridging the gap between their dumb Nokias and their shiny new smartphones. And it did it by making the apps and features look and behave as similar as possible to their real-life counterparts. Now, we do this in the crypto world, but we do it quite badly. For example, we use the word address to describe what you would normally just call an account number if you were doing a banking transaction. It's not that easy though, and if you thought that, you're completely right. Simplifying crypto to the point where it makes it suitable for everyone is an enormous task. And truly revolutionary new technologies often don't have physical world counterparts, and blockchains are definitely part of this category, which makes the hill we're climbing considerably steeper. Adobe faced this problem back in 2011 when they announced Creative Cloud to the public. At the time, Dropbox had spent years creating cloud awareness for their storage product. Apple had started a precursor to what would become iCloud. And now Adobe was trying to launch a drastically different type of cloud-based product. And much like blockchain today, they faced the challenge of how to communicate the value of things like virtual servers and cloud-hosted software to their customers who weren't software engineers. Adobe realized that the fact that they were using new fancy technology was largely irrelevant to their customers. So they decided, instead of explaining complicated technologies to their customers, they focused on doing nothing drastically different. And instead, they drew parallels to something that already existed, which was their Creative Suite. So they told their customers, you don't need to buy software anymore. A subscription is cheaper than buying the latest software each year, and your apps are kept up to date automatically, so you always have the latest updates. So what Adobe's done is they've communicated ease of use and value to their customers, which are probably the most important things that you want to convey to your customer anyway. You want your customer to know that your product's easy to use, and you want your customer to know that there's value in your product. At no point is Adobe telling you how fancy their technology is. And at the time, it was pretty fancy. All they did to start with was tell customers that everything they normally do with Adobe, they can continue to do. But it'll be cheaper, it'll be more convenient. And so for the past 9 years, they've been graduating customers into more complex design flows, more complex features, and sometimes they're even older, more complex features. But they figured out that they needed a starting point to get customers to really see the value in their products. So let's take the same approach with Bitcoin. We want to sell our product, Bitcoin, as a store of value. So how do we make people comfortable? So the first thing we do is we introduce a premise. So we say to them, all right, Bitcoin's like gold. It retains its value, and sometimes it even increases its value over the long term. It's a really easy way to explain it for that use case. And almost anyone can understand that because everyone understands what gold is. So we've drawn this parallel. So then what are we going to tell them? We tell them, you can send it to anyone at any time. This is the ultimate convenience. You don't have to deal with another person or an institution or whatever it is, you can do it. The second thing you can tell them is, you pay for the services that you need when you need them. So unlike gold, for example, where you have to pay storage fees, you have to do this. All you have to do is pay a fee when you actually use the service. And then lastly, you tell them you own it outright, just like a gold coin or money, but with the benefits of digitization, which makes it far easier for you to spend or use or send. So in these 3 points, I'm not trying to explain anything complicated. I'm not talking about coin mixes for additional privacy or the fee implications of using a Segwit wallet, because as a business, I can make those decisions for the customer without it negatively impacting them. I can easily include coin mixing by default if I wanted to add a privacy feature, and I wouldn't need to ask my customers if I wanted to obscure their transactions or not. That would simply be a feature of my product. If I want to minimize the fees for my users, I make sure that the wallets I generate within my app are Segwit wallets. We don't need complexity to achieve adoption. We need usability. So how do we fix this? These are 4 steps to take to make sure that the product that you're building is not only going to work well when mass adoption happens, but also to make sure that the product that you build is part of making mass adoption happen, which I think should be one of the primary focuses of any crypto or blockchain business. So the first thing is, build a simple product that anyone can use, even if it doesn't have all the cool features that you want it to have. And I know it's difficult. It's so difficult. Second, feed your product to your friends or anyone who's willing to give you feedback. Like literally anyone who's willing to give you feedback, talk to them, but make sure that they aren't already convinced that blockchain or crypto is a technology that's going to be adopted. Abstract the complexity away from your product as much as possible so that your product is simple to use, even if those fees are a little higher. And lastly, give power users like yourself and your crypto friends their own place to get fancy. Add an advanced mode in your app, or create an entirely separate app for power users. These steps can help make your product appealing to everyone, which is ultimately what you want as someone building a product, not just appealing to geeks like us. And just because you need to show a little restraint in the way that you portray your product doesn't mean that you can't innovate. So start simple, onboard customers and get them comfortable. Then slowly move them up to power users and show them all of the amazing things that they can do, but only show it to them when they're ready. So if you want to see how we're tackling some of these problems, you can visit Revix.com, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you very much.